Hi everyone, welcome back to The Balanced Woman. I hope all is well today for everyone. As you can see, I'm out and about, but I found the time to get on and do what I have committed to do every Monday at 12:15. So I hope, I'm using my mic because I'm outside, so hopefully you can hear me. So today what we're going to talk about is navigating the holidays with your ex and their children, and this can be at various stages or ages, right? And so one of the things that I often say when experiencing can you hear me, Creamy Blast? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect, my daughter, one thing. So one of the things I often say when it comes to Christmas holidays, I know most of my clients get very stressed out, and whether it be stressed out due to finances, whether it be stressed out due to family commitments, and also stressed out because this is the time of year that you get together with your exes and children. And while for some it's an easy task, for many it's not. Why? Because a lot of what goes on as a result of exes is unresolved conflict, resentment, right? Things that were said that probably shouldn't have been said, and so forth. So today I want to share with you a few tips in which you can move forward during the Christmas holidays and no longer have them as a stressor, but now something you look forward to, right? So the first thing we start with is boundaries. We have to set those boundaries. And what does that look like? It actually looks like you having a conversation with your partner, your spouse, in which, what does this look like? What is the intention of what it should look like, right? And you both have to come to an agreement of what is really going to work and you're both going to accept. And for many, it's women, right? Having to accept children, right? And the access to show up. And there's also men who also have to do likewise. So one of the things I often say is have that conversation. Babe, this is how I feel about it. This is my expectation of it. What is your expectation of it? And that tends to work when you talk to each other and find out how you both feel about this situation. Secondly, I would often say to have that conversation, whether it be one or the other, have that conversation with the ex, right? And how should it look, right? And if there's anything unresolved, try to be amenable for the sake of the children. Let me back up. I'm sorry. Oftentimes, the reason why we have this conversation is because one of my clients had reached out and said, Tina, could you just talk about it? What does this look like? Because the family members, her current husband's family, has also included the ex and the children, right? Hi, Mom. Has also included the children to come to the family gathering. So we start with the couple's conversation. What does it look like? What do I feel comfortable with? What is my expectation? And then jointly, how do we meet that common goal? And the common goal is always to make sure first you as a couple are safe and feel comfortable, but ultimately it's for the sake of the children, right? Because remember, it's unfortunate that sometimes we have a breakup. Many of us have had breakups, right? And do have an ex. But what's most important is the children in it all. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to agree. But when it comes to the children, what do we agree upon for the sake of them to have a great Christmas or whatever events you have to deal with, right? So I often say, have the conversation. One. And if you find yourself stuck in that conversation, you now have to do some active listening and the various conversations that I'm going to actually attach my relationship rescue kit below here, and it has all of that on how you can have that conversation, how you can resolve conflict, how you can even make the right apology and so forth. So you'll want to make sure you get that kit. The next thing is think of the children. Have that conversation with your children. If they're of age to have the conversation as to what does it look like, ask them how they feel about it, right? Get their buy-in to it, because ultimately it's to make sure your children are feeling comfortable and whole, right? Have the conversation. How do you feel about all of us getting together? What would you like to see? And ultimately, think of plans and games and events you can do for the children. What do they want to do? How can we do this as a family. The next thing I want you to think about is, it may be uncomfortable, but what I want you to do is have some grace, give yourself grace, give the situations grace, take a deep breath, and ultimately, what is your main goal? So that the family can have a great Christmas. The children can see that collectively, although we're not together, we love them and we want what's best for them. So you have the conversation, you include your children, and if you have any challenges with the acts, even you as a wife, if you have any challenges with your husband's acts and vice versa, maybe it's time you have that conversation as to what you both want that conversation to look like, but also the time spent look like, but also what's most important, how are we going to work together for the betterment of this relationship for our children? Because if they see us constantly arguing and bickering and fighting, how do you think they feel about that? Right? So are we really thinking about the children? And no, we're not going to always agree with what the acts may say, or even with what the acts is doing, or even if the current wife or husband's doing. But we're going to think about when we come together, it's for the betterment of the children. And even during the event, if there's anything you see any of the partners doing that's really grating you, making you, just irritating you, save it for the end, so that you and your husband or wife can have that conversation, so that the following year things could be a little different. The one thing I often say is, it's really no longer about you. When we have children, I've been there, so I understand. When we have children, it's no longer about us. It's about what's best for our children. We don't have to speak. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to do anything. But when it comes to these children, the least we could do is be respectful. Good morning, good afternoon, Merry Christmas, how are you? And whatever the conversation is around the children, that's what you should be able to have. Okay, so set those boundaries. You as a couple talk about how you feel, what are your expectations, how would you like for it to look, and talk about how you feel about it, and put on your big girl or big boy panties and get ready, right? Secondly, talk to the children. How do they feel about it? What do they want it to look like? And what are the games and plans and foods and events that you're going to do while you're with these children on this Christmas holiday? Because ultimately it's about them, right? So that they can have a memorable Christmas. And thirdly, if you haven't already had a conversation with the acts and you have some type of resistance, have that conversation with them. Work it out, okay, it's not about whether or not I like you or you like me, but how can we better get along for the sake of our children? Because ultimately we need to show them that we are mature enough and love them enough to make this relationship work. And lastly, never be afraid to apologize if you know you've probably handled things wrong in the past. If you feel any jealousy toward your ex's children or their wife or ex-partner, you're going to have to, it's time you suck that up. And what I mean by suck that up is that we can change the past, right? But we can certainly change the future. Okay, so ultimately, get my relationship rescue kit, which is going to be attached, the link's attached on here. Because one of the things that I often do is help people to rescue their relationships, and whether it be intimate relationships, past relationships, work team relationships, family relationships, how can we better resolve it? Some can be resolved right away and some need time, right? But in everything, what I've done is put together my relationship rescue kit that I use for clients, my VIP clients mostly, in helping them to, like an emergency. It's called Rescue as an Emergency Kit, right? And it also has some things in there to help you to better manage conflict, how to manage your intimacy, how to resolve problems and apologize, and just some date night ideas that you can get along even better, right? So that will be the link below. And ultimately, remember this: Christmas is supposed to be for fun and everybody enjoying time together. It shouldn't be that shouldn't be the time when you walk in with an attitude because you see an ex or you see a child that the husband or wife's extremely close to. You should want all of that. You should want all of that. And lastly, let me put this in there. If you have any gripe with an ex and you show up to these events, save anything you wish to say till later. Don't do it during the Christmas event. Okay? Yeah, I think that's it. Now I have to get back to what I was doing. Look where I am, guys. I'm by the waterside. So, you know, every now and again we got to catch ourselves, right? But one of the things I often say is, don't be afraid to apologize. Don't be afraid to say, I did it wrong the last time. Don't be afraid to ask the acts. You know, how can we do this better? What do you feel about how I show up? What do you feel about me being a new stepmom or stepfather, or not even step, but the new partner in your ex-husband's life or ex-wife's life? You know, is there anything I can do to even help the current relationship with the children? Those are the type of conversations, because ultimately they are our future. You're going to get ill. and they may need you to look after them, right? Or vice versa. You may need them to look after you, right? Sometimes we forget that. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining. Don't forget to click the link below and get yourself a relationship rescue kit, because you're going to need it for Christmas. You're going to need it before the new year comes in. Why go into the new year conflicting when you don't have to? All right, guys. Talk soon.